Hello everybody and welcome to episode number 10 of an Irish knitting podcast. Hello everybody, I'm Sam and welcome to my channel. I am an artist and illustrator living, painting and of course designing from the Republic of Ireland. And you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and of course on Ravelry looking for Irish farm art. If you are new to my channel, thank you so much for coming by and deciding to spend a few minutes of your day with me. This is my kind of weekly / bi-weekly knitting podcast or a talk show in which I try to follow the classic knitting podcast schedule, talking about my finished works, works in progress, acquisitions and anything and everything that is going through my artistic endeavors, all through the eyes of an artist, of course. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. There's been so many of you in the last few weeks. I am literally mind blown and my heart is really filled with so many lovely comments and all of you guys. So thank you so much. First of all, before we start with the content, let me address the couple of elephants in the room that we are facing now. And I don't even know how two big elephants can stand in this room. The first one being my fantastic voice. I always edit my voice, adding a little bit of bass and reducing the treble. As you can imagine, I don't need to add any bass to my voice today, it's just already very low. I've had the most annoying cold ever in the past week or so, and it's still lingering around. Although it's not COVID, don't be afraid. I've been testing myself on a daily basis and the tests are always negative, so it's just a very bad cold. The second elephant that we need to address is the wind outside, and you may happen to hear it. Ireland is actually being impacted by a massive windstorm, and it's like a yellow wind warning all around the country for the week. So it's very noisy outside, it's quite scary, but all my plants are tidied up and I'm looking that way because my window is up there and my garden is up there. I hope there won't be any damage, but it's just annoying, the sound of the wind. There is another little elephant. I've recorded this intro, I would say 4 times, and the camera keeps blurring my face. So this is another trial. The video going forward will be at stages a little blurred. I am going once again to try and operate some magic with the editing, but yeah, I'm just going to warn you. It's all because I have a print up here with a face and the camera is recognizing that face before mine, so focuses on that face. I just need to figure out this setting. But anyway, I really hope you have your cup of coffee, tea, your project, knitting, crocheting, needlepoint or whatever other craft you're making, and let's get started with the finished works. So as you know, I've been to Italy last week. If you've seen my what's in my bag video, you've seen the projects that I brought to Italy, and I managed actually to finish quite a few works. So first of all, what am I wearing? This is my Marius sweater number 3 from Sandnes Garn. This is a pattern for sale on Ravelry and you can buy this from the Sandnes Garn website itself or through some other shops that deals with Sandnes yarn. Sandnes is a yarn company from Norway, of course, and they produce the most beautiful yarn, but the most beautiful pattern as well. I got this through a English website called SKD Yarns, if I'm right. I'm gonna put the links below in the description, and they provide the English translation of the Norwegian pattern. The patterns are really kind of recipe patterns. They are very brief and they suppose you know a lot of knitting. I kind of started my garment knitting through those patterns, so it was a bit of a challenge at the very beginning, but they taught me so much, and I go back to sadness patterns over and over just because they fit my body so well, and I kind of know now how to modify them and how to make them fit even better. So yeah, I absolutely love them patterns, and I knit them over and over and over again, and they are always very beautiful. This sweater is the Marius number 3, if I'm right, 3 or 4. Well, I'm gonna put all the description here in a box. And why am I showing this now? I've knitted this like a couple of years ago almost, and it's because I was wearing this in Italy, and I've noticed that the sleeves were way too short. That was about a 10 centimeter type of situation going on. So it was fine wearing the jumper on the top of a shirt, just because the cuff shows of the shirt shows a little bit off the cuff of the jumper, which was completely fine. But working from home, not really wearing shirts so much, I found that quite annoying. I tried to block it very heavily to get the sleeves to fit better. That kind of worked, that kind of didn't work. I wasn't really happy, and I found myself wearing this jumper less and less, which is annoying because I really love the colors and I really love the fit of the jumper. So I decided to put myself there and try to knit again the cuff and add the 10 centimeters that was missing. Quite of a rocky mistake, because when I started trying and unraveling the first few rows, I remember or noticed that they weren't unraveling, and the fact that the jumper actually started from the cuff all the way up to the shoulder, the sleeve I mean. So it was impossible to unravel, pick up stitches and knit again as you would if it was knitted the other way around. The way that I worked this out was literally, and I probably show you a little bit here, cutting the cuff, the original cuff, picking up stitches and knitting the 10 centimeters that were missing. I was very close to destroy this jumper, and I was really worried about the jumper being destroyed. But it turned out very beautiful, and you actually can't see that the stitches are the other way around, of course, because of course originally was knitted this direction, but then I knitted up the other direction. This because it's probably ribbing, so it doesn't really show much the stitch direction, but it turned out actually really effective and really simple. So I added the 10 centimeters bound off, and it looks amazing now. It's actually a proper well-fitted jumper, and the sleeve length is just what I was looking for. A mention on the yarn. This is knitted using host garn super soft wool, which is a very light fingering weight yarn spun up in big cones. I say a kilo or half a kilo cone, like a big boji cone of yarn. It's very difficult to knit with. You will see an example later on in my work in progress situation, but yeah, it's very difficult to knit with. It's a very webby when it forms the fabric, and it's really sticky, so quite difficult or impossible even to work the color work, because the yarn tend to stick together all of the time. So it's just a continuous unraveling the yarn and pulling, and it's a big mess. But it's all worth it, because once you wash it, the fabric plumps up so much. All the spinning oils in the yarn just dissolves and the yarn blooms and becomes this beautiful, really thick and full fabric that I absolutely love. And as well, it's super light but super warm. The yarn is called super soft. This is not soft. It's quite rough. It's not itchy by any means. And you know me that I'm always a little bit fussy about yarn or about wool. I can't wear wool on my skin because I'm annoyed about the itchiness. This is not itchy at all. So it's not soft, but it's not itchy. It's kind of a rustic, lofty type of yarn. I've seen a lot of people knitting with this yarn held twice or double. So instead of being a fingering weight, it turns out to be almost a sport to decay weight yarn, which is something I haven't tried yet, because mainly I don't have one of those machines that cake up the yarn. So I find really annoying to have to wind up the yarn by hand and then wind another ball and wind them together, like all this big mess. So far I've only knitted jumpers generally using one strand of that beautiful fingering weight yarn. It's really thin, and when you knit it, it's once again a nightmare because you don't really know what you're gonna get until the very end. But I absolutely adore this. This is a quite dark green and a natural color, and I for sure will knit once more this jumper or some jumpers with this yarn. I'm completely in love. So here you have it, my Mario sweater from Sadness Garn. The second project I want to talk about, and this has been in my Instagram account quite a bit last week, is this little bow tie here that I'm holding upside down. This is a bow tie that I created using the Ukrainian flag color. So we all know about the very terrible situation in Ukraine and the humanitarian crisis that is going on over there. These millions of poor people that have to flee their country because of a war that they didn't want and they weren't expecting. So I felt quite, I don't know, simple, stupid, or like trivia to sit there and talk about knitting and yarn and being safe and secure in my little house, having food in my pantry, being able to go out and enjoy my life, while so many people, not really far away because Ukraine is just a couple of hours flight from here, so many people had to struggle so much, and I felt really this feeling of helplessness, helplessness, of not being helpful, and really being it's so difficult to explain, but I really wanted to help somehow with what I can. I can't, for obvious reason, fly to Poland, Romania, or indeed Ukraine and help refugees there physically, but I definitely can do something with my art and with my crafts. So I created this little pattern here of my bow tie design with the Ukrainian flag color and the lovely details with a heart that is mirroring basically the color of the flag. This bow tie is knitted in the round using basically any sock yarn you have, and the color work can be knitted using the intarsia technique or indeed with duplicate stitch, and I provide all the instruction in the pattern. The pattern is for sale in my Ravelry shop, and you can find the links below in the description. And here it comes how I kind of am trying to help the refugee crisis and what's going on in Ukraine and a little bit raise awareness. All the profit from the pattern, all the money that I can collect selling this pattern will be donated to Unicef Ireland to help with the refugee crisis. So if you happen to stumble across this video or my Instagram account, this post or my pattern, please would you help me to share this pattern and I don't know, raise some money. I have already about 20 sale of the pattern, which is, I know, not a lot of money, but I am going to try and match the price if I can, so that we can donate to UNICEF Ireland and do our little bit for Ukraine and for all these people that are losing their homes. I know it's quite difficult to talk about these things, but yeah, if we can help with our crafting community, it's something that we can do, and we can actually make an impact. And I was really happy, surprised, but so very proud that so many knitters actually are knitting the Ukrainian colors, are raising money, are fundraising, are doing so many good things for Ukraine and for the refugees crisis. So once again, this is called a papillon for Ukraine. Papillon is the French word for bow tie, or even the Italian one actually. Anyway, and means like a butterfly. And yeah, it's just a very nice bow tie, but if you don't want to knit the string here, you can just knit the bow and use it as an applique for your dresses, or indeed put a pin and pin it to your backpack. It's just a very nice, very simple way to raise awareness and, of course, money for this crisis. So I really hope you enjoy. And this was my second finished work. My third finished work for this week is this lovely little cowl. This is knitted up using extra fine merino from Adriafil, and the range is called Bucaneve. Bucaneve means the Bucaneve is that little flower that really makes a hole in the snow. It's called crocus or something like that in English, I think. I felt that that was quite a funny name, being March, the month that actually Bucaneve or crocuses come up and bloom. So that was a match, I suppose. And the yarn is extra fine merino wool that I had in my stash from when I was just a beginner knitter, and I was so in love with merino wool and everything that was super wash and really soft and lofty. But it happens that I ruined a few jumpers knitting with merino wool and extra fine merino and superwash yarn. I can't get gauge with merino wool and with superwash yarn. So I knitted up a few jumpers, and then after washing them a couple of times I threw them in the bin because they became ginormous. So I was looking up how to use merino wool and how to knit with super soft superwash merino, and many people were suggesting that merino is actually not made for jumpers or garment, but you can use this wool for accessories. And this is actually true. Like this is a cowl. It's really soft and works wonders. I don't mind if it grows a bit while washing. I don't mind if the yarn is really drippy. It's just so beautiful, warm, soft on your neck. You can't really feel it. You just feel like a big hug of wooliness, if you can say. I don't have the word to describe this. But anyway, I use that yarn in my stash. I have started this project just as a swatch. So basically I pencil down this pattern on a sketchbook, as I always do, for a future garment project. I really want to make a jumper dedicated to my city, Venice, and using this pattern that I will talk about in a second. But I wasn't sure that the pattern would work in a color work. You know, when you draw the pattern in like that graph paper, you don't have the idea of how it knits up, especially in the round. So looking into swatching, I do hate swatching very, very much. So every time I can, I swatch making something. I swatch making a hat. I swatch making a pair of socks. I swatch making a pair of mittens or a cowl. And I think swatching and making an object is actually the way to go, because at least you have a perfect swatch in the round and you have a finished object that you can wear, use, gift, whatever. Gives you the exact gauge, measurement that you would need, and gives you as well a finished work, which in my opinion is a win-win. So I will never ever swatch again flat or just for the sake of swatching, but always think about making something. So out of this swatch it came a beautiful cowl. The pattern is referring to a stonework that is present on the buildings of the Accademia delle Belle Arti in Italian, which is a series of buildings in Venice in which the School of Art is situated. So basically in the Accademia they have always been teaching arts since the Republic of Venice was founded. And it's very important as a building because Venice, as a republic back in the days, wanted to show its culture, its power to the rest of the world, basically. And it was a very powerful little nation. Well, not quite little, it was like a big, powerful nation. And they wanted to show their wealth, their art, their cultural value. And so they always fostered artists very, very much. That's why the Accademia buildings are so important for Venice and they are so beautiful. Nowadays it's still a school of art and it's as well a museum. You can walk in and find beautiful pieces from Venetian artists as well as other Italian artists. I think there are a few Leonardos, a few Botticellis as well. So if you are in Venice, I really recommend you to go and visit the Accademia because it's so beautiful. On the building itself, there is this like a rose type of decoration that is kind of the symbol of the Venetian architecture right now. You can find this rose literally in every palace or in every like stonework decoration in Venice, but the Accademia, in my opinion, is probably the first and the most beautiful interpretation of this rose. And I try to recreate this in stranded colorwork, and I think the result is just amazing. Let me put it on without messing my hair so much. Well, my hair is already messed up, so who cares? Looks beautiful, it's quite fitted, and it's a really, really cozy. This is knitted in the round, I was saying, using just a little over 30 grams of yarn, both in the main color and contrasting color. So it's a very, very good stash buster as well. And if you want to start a color work in the round, the design is not too difficult. So might be a very nice beginner's project if you wish. So yeah, here you have it. This is the Accademia Cowl. Is a free pattern on Ravelry, and I kind of always put the pattern at least at like €1, just to kind of get some of the expenses back that test the knitting, and as well yarn, and as well tech editor's take, but I realize I never gonna get those money back. So it's a free pattern, and I really hope you enjoy, and I really hope it will get some sort of visibility on Ravelry. What else to say about this pattern? So I made here 6 repetitions of the chart, which is a total of 120 stitches with a little ribbing on the top and bottom, but you really can customize this pattern as you wish, both on the length and on the width, adding or subtracting of the original chart. And I put all the instruction in the pattern, so it's very easy. So let's say if you want to make a pattern tighter, you just take off 20 stitches. If you want to make a pattern wider, you add 20 stitches. If you want to reduce the length, you will add some of the repetition on the top and bottom, and so on and so forth. It's extremely easy. The only thing to be mindful is that these big blocks of color will require you to catch your float quite a bit. Let me show you the inside. You can see here that I cut my float a lot, so you can quite tell the design from the inside as well. This because I do like to catch my float every 3 or 4 stitches maximum, and it will give you a nicer, thicker fabric overall without any holes. But yeah, once again, I really hope you will get to knit this pattern. It's free on my Ravelry shop, and I really love it. I will put this pattern on some other object for sure. I was originally thinking of a jumper. This is how this cowl was born. But I'm already working on some socks design using some sort of or some interpretation of this same color work as well. More to come, hopefully very soon. And my last finished work. As you well know, I have been working on this jumper for so long. This is probably the 8th or 9th iteration of this jumper. It's the Anchor sweater by Petite Knits, and I'm going to put, as per usual, all the specification here on the foliage. This is knitted up using Drops Lima, and it's a beautiful yarn made out of alpaca, mixed alpaca and wool. I think it's 75-25, but again, all the specifications are here. It's a wonderfully soft yarn. So, why is this 8th iteration of this jumper? Well, I first knitted this jumper and I wanted to knit this jumper out of some other YouTubers I saw, namely Jonathan Day from Jonathan Day's podcast, who knitted this wonderful jumper using a lovely mustard color. He is currently knitting another one. Caleb from Drowning Yarn as well knitted this wonderful jumper using a kind of a light bluish color. Absolutely beautiful. And the two of them came up with some modification to the pattern that I really wanted to try. Some short rows on the back and as well some tapering on the body. I'm going to talk about that in a second. So originally I went to my local yarn shop, something that never happens. I never go to yarn shops. I kind of feel a little awkward hanging around yarn shops. But came that I went to the yarn shop. I bought some Irish yarn. I bought some Studio Donegal yarn in DK Way, very rough yarn. And I started knitting it. From the very beginning I noticed that Studio Donegal was very rough on my hands. It was very difficult to knit and took such a long time to get through the yoke and the body. But I managed eventually to get a gauge, at least at the beginning, knitted the body and knit one sleeve. And for some sort of reason that I can't understand, I didn't try it on until the very end of the first sleeve. So body done, sleeve done, tried on, it was ginormous. The neck and beginning of the yoke was fine, probably a little tighter as well, which I like. And then literally it opened up like a bell. The sleeve was probably twice the length of my arm. And I suppose that was because through the knitting, being the yarn so rough on my hands, unconsciously I lost gauge and it became just gigantic. So I was thinking the first instinct was just to throw the jumper in the bin and never knit again with that yarn. But you know me, I am quite frugal as a knitter and I couldn't bring myself to throw such an expensive and nice yarn in the bin. So I unraveled everything and I ended up with a massive ball of yarn, which is now currently sitting very cozily in my stash, and I will think of some other project for that. It probably would work fine with like a sort of heavy cardigan slash jacket. I still need to figure out. I have a massive amount of that yarn, so yeah, if you have any idea, any suggestion, any pattern recommendation, send me a message or leave a comment below. I'm really eager to get rid of the yarn and knit something that I can actually wear. So after that jumper I start again, and with Drops Lima, that was a wonder to knit. This entire jumper took me a week to knit, which is nothing as jumper goes. So soft, so beautiful, it's so warm, it fits so well. So this is a top-down jumper you knit from the neck all the way down the body, and then there is a little bit of raglan increase. You separate the sleeve, knit the rest of the body, knit the sleeve, blah blah blah, usual things. I'm not quite familiar with top-down jumpers, so for me it was a bit of a challenge and a learning curve. The two things that I was mentioning from Jonathan Days and Caleb were, first of all, the short rows at the back of the neck. Both Jonathan and Caleb were kind of hermetic in describing how they added their short rows. They were saying in their podcast, and I will put all the links below so you can check them out, they were saying that they used the flax sweater as a baseline or a template for short rows. Flax sweater is a free pattern, comes in a ginormous amount of sizes, way of yarns, and you name it. And there is an appendix that tells you how to add short rows. So matching, more or less matching the stitch count, you can really follow the instruction for the short rows. This is what I've done. So I knitted the yoke, and on the back of the yoke, following that instruction, before separating for the sleeves, I added the short rows. And that just gave the neck and the yoke a little bit of structure that you need in a kind of modern fitting jumper. The second update to the pattern that I made, or modification, is the tapering down the body. So basically getting the body to fit your waist a little bit better. Caleb was mentioning that he decreases a number of stitches down the body, and I tried and done the same. I wasn't as, how can I say, adventurous as Caleb was, but I feel like just decreasing a few stitches on each side on the under sleeve type of thing, that really work well, and it does fit very, very well. I'm super in love with this jumper. I really love the fit. Do you want to see it on? I'm gonna see it. I'm gonna put it on. Let's do some stripping. So here it is. You probably can't really see it much, but it's wonderful. Fits really well, and I really, really like the yoke. Although I wasn't expecting this result, to be honest. I am usually the type of person that doesn't like kind of boat necky yoke, and I do love my sticking jumpers or my classic drop sleeves jumpers, but this really looks so beautiful. I have no idea if you can see it, but it really gives my shoulder a little bit of I don't know, buffiness that is kind of needed probably. I am not a gym person myself, but this jumper looks 100%. Anyway, I am in love with this. It was such a quick knit. I basically knitted all, taking off all the experiments and unraveling situation that went on in the past, but I basically knit this all last week, and it was just wonderful. I haven't mentioned the yarn. It's a bit of a shame. I started this jumper wanting a 100% Irish yarn situation, but I couldn't manage to get a Studio Donegal to work, so I ended up looking into my stash, and I found a lot of drops Lima that I bought back in the days when I was in love with that type of lofty yarn. I was in love with alpaca, I still am, and I was in love with drops because they are extremely convenient as yarn, and you can buy a jumper quantity for a very few euro, which is always something nice. The problem with drops is that it's such a massive company, you don't really know where the yarn come from, if it's sustainable, and this and that. And of course, the air mileage. It's a Norwegian company. Getting the yarn here is air miles. It's a waste of resources. But once again, it's something that yeah, everybody goes through. I used drops before. I'm using drops now. Unfortunately, we live in a very small island, and there's not much yarn you can buy over here. And so you're drawn to get what you get, and I got this, and this works perfectly. It's a mix, I don't remember the numbers, but I'm gonna put all the specifications here. It's a mix of alpaca and wool, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's very warm, it's not scratchy at all. You know how much I love alpaca. So, have I bragged for as long as I could on this jumper here? This is the Anchor Sweater by Petite Knit. It's beautiful, and thank you so much Caleb and Jonathan Days. No idea if you're watching this video, I'm sure you're not watching this video, but if you are, a big massive thank you, because your tips actually make this happen, and I'm really happy about it. So, I am going to keep this jumper on because we finished the finished works, and we're going into the works in progress, and there's quite a few as well. So, the first thing I would like to show you, and it's quite difficult too, but it is this kind of piece of ribbing here. This is the very beginning of a new project. I haven't got a clue what it's gonna turn out like. It is my usual 260 stitches cast on, and I'm using this wonderful yarn from Host Garn. It's a super soft wool, the one that I knitted basically my Marius jumper with, that I was showing you before. And you can see here actually, let me figure out a way not to get rid of everything, how webby this is. And this is because it's not washed yet. So you can see through the yarn, which is really frustrating. And you probably will see as well the horrible stitch definition that this yarn has. Every stitch looks different from the other. But when you wash this thing, everything will come together, and it's just a magical thing. So I knitted 6 centimeters of ribbing and about 15 centimeters of stockinette. in the round using very, very small needles. I haven't got a clue what this is gonna turn out like. I know that 260 centimeters, 260 stitches is my waist measure using this yarn, using these needles, so it will probably be another jumper. I kind of want to figure out a way if I can make a raglan sweater, just because I really like raglan very much, how they fit. I haven't, though, knitted raglan very much. I just have a couple. But I really like the fit, and I really would love to experiment a little bit more with color work design on a raglan shape. Does this make any sense? Anyway, this is the first work in progress. It's an unnamed original design, but this can turn into eventually another Marius if I get crazy, or a random color work design from another artist if I am not able to come up with anything original enough that will justify myself going through the expense of test knitting and tech editing. Apologies, I had to take a pause. I was really coffee and my nose is all over the place. Anyway, once again, really loving this project. I really hope it will turn out into something nice. The yarn, you can get it out of Host Garn, which is a Danish yarn company. It's a website. It's the shipping is alright, it's not too expensive. I used to be able to get a hold of similar yarns out of the UK on JC Rennie website, and on Wool Knits, which is another website that kind of sell this type of yarn, coned up, super soft yarn, and yeah, unfortunately with all the Brexit situation, the shipping and import fees from the UK is getting crazy, so I stick to the Danish website. It's so much easier for us in Europe. But if you have any suggestion on how to find this type of cone of yarn, fingering weight yarn, I'm really, really curious to know, and I would really love to try different brands or different type of this sort of yarns. I find them really convenient because out of a cone you can get 1 or 2 jumpers. It's amazing, and yeah, it knits up so beautifully. My next work in progress is on these tiny needles. These are 2.5 Knit Pro needles. And of course, it's a pair of socks. I wanted to experiment a little bit with the design I came up with for the cowl and eventually for a future garment on a pair of socks for my buildings or palaces of the Grand Canal collection that of course you can find in my rubbery store. And the idea is to have a series of accessories, socks for now, that are inspired by these beautiful buildings that are facing the Canal Grande in Venice, which by the way is the capital city of the region of Italy where I'm from. So far I only have the cuff and a little bit of the color work, recalling that cowl pattern and this geometrical type of situation. I am turned now about the heel, what type of heel I should put in, and if I should try to experiment with some color work design or intarsia design on the heel itself. This is living in a bag for quite some time, and yeah, I have a little bit of a block for sock knitting lately. This will probably fly by. It's just a matter of concentrating and like finding some inspiration. But so far I'm quite happy with this design here. It's really graphic and it's really simple as well, and I really love the color combination. This is knitted up with Adriafil Calza sock, which you know it's my favorite sock yarn so far. It's really inexpensive and you can find beautiful colors. And as well, it comes from Italy, which is a way to support Italian yarn producers as well. And the final work in progress. Get ready and behold. Can we recognize this? Once again, this is a bubble sweater by Stephen West. I have just started the collar and the yoke. I'm just started with the bubble stitch situation on the yoke. It's a very recent knit, and I am knitting this using this wonderful Norwegian yarn from Sandnes Gard, which is Peer Gynt, and I'm using two colors. There's a name? No, there is only a number, 1088 and 4545. This is actually Peer Gynt, this is perfect. Peer Gynt is 100% Norwegian wool, perfect is 75 Norwegian wool and 25 nylon. Why have I decided to use these two? Well, first of all, because I really love Peer Gynt as a yarn. It's very lofty, it's very soft, and it's a nice horsework DK yarn that you can find quite easily around Europe. I couldn't find the right shade of purple that I really wanted, so I had to look into other yarns from Sandnes that would have the shade, and they had this kind of sock yarn here that is the right way and the right color as well. So I combined the two of them. It's the same stitch count, the same weight, and they really work amazing together. So if you recall, my original bubble sweater picture here is exactly the same colors. It's a little bit different, like the gray color is a little darker and the purple color is a little bit more orangey, but it's basically the same type of color. And why did I decide to knit another bubble sweater? Well, it's a very sad story, because I knitted my first bubble sweater, once again, picture here, using Cascade 220 superwash yarn, which is a wonderful, wonderful yarn to knit with. It's beautiful, suited me very well. It was a little big, but nothing crazy. I blocked it, was fine. And I wore it a lot back in Italy last week. I wore it that much, and I went out and about in Italy, in Venice especially. There was the Carnival Festival going on, so a lot of people throwing you, how are they called in English? They're called in Italian coriandoli, which sound like coriander in English. They're like confetti, they are called, which in Italian confetti is a sort of confectionery. But anyway, people were throwing confetti at you, they were throwing stuff. It's like Carnival, it's a big party, and so the jumper got a little bit dirty, a little bit, Venice is a city, so the smogish of the city, anyway, you get it. I had to wash the sweater. I looked at the label on the ball of yarn that I had left, and it was fine to wash on using your washing machine. I put it in the washing machine. I took it out, and it was a disaster. The jumper was basically ruined. So apart from a hole that magically created in front of the jumper, I don't know what, I probably missed a stitch at some point and I couldn't find it when it was blocking, so I didn't realize it. Apart from this big hole that could be repaired, the entire jumper was extraordinarily bubbly. Literally the yarn fell apart. The washing machine was full of little specks of yarn, and it was a big disaster. So I had basically to take apart my washing machine, clean the filter. I tried to dry and block the sweater with the idea of depeeling the sweater afterwards. I tried to do that, that was impossible, the yarn kept really falling apart. Now, I don't know if I got a bad batch of yarn that couldn't be washed in the washing machine. I don't know if the temperature was a little bit too high in the washing machine. I don't know if the wool cycle of my washing machine is not working properly. Turns out that the jumper was completely ruined. So, as sad as it could be, this is not really the saddest thing that happened to that jumper, because I decided eventually to throw it away without even thinking. So I don't have the jumper to show you here now, it's in the bin somewhere. But it's not bad, because there were a few mistakes in that first bubble sweater that I knitted, and I really liked the fabric, I really like Cascade as a yarn. I really didn't love it. I found that it was a little bit too drippy for my liking, and a little bit too big as well, and it wasn't really holding its shape as much as I wanted. So, looking at Ravelry projects for the bubble sweater, I found that a lot of people were knitting in Peer Gynt from Sadness Garn. So I went on a bit of a quest online to try figure out if I could get a hold of this yarn, and I actually could through a French website, and I bought a jumper quantity of this yarn, again dark grey and this purplish color. And yeah, starting again, I will follow all the notes that I took on the pattern as I went, and hopefully we'll get a much better result. I'm going to knit, first of all, a size smaller, because I am sure this will stretch a little bit. This is pure 100% wool and a little bit of nylon on the perfect one. But I think, knowing myself and knowing the way I knit and block my jumper, I tend to be a little bit loose. So going a size smaller, this will allow the fit that I really want. And I will adopt all the consideration as well that I use for this jumper, so tapering the body a little bit and probably adding a tiny bit of a short row situation at the back of the yoke itself. About the color, I was really in love with the original colors. The grey, as I mentioned, is a little bit darker. I don't mind, because this is kind of speckly, and if I know Sadness Garn, this will fade in time a little bit, which is okay. The question on the purple one, the perfect one, well, this is kind of a magic yarn for me, because it came actually yesterday in the mail. And I opened the box. This yarn looked extremely orange, so I was really disappointed. I actually thought they mistaken my order. I don't know in the viewfinder how you can see the color, but this looked kind of a rusty orange, reddish orange. This morning, with a different light, this looked exactly like the color I wanted. Lovely purple with a hint of blue, no orange at all. So I have no idea what's going on with this yarn, if I was that sick last night with my cold not to see the colors as they were, or if it was the light, or what. Turns out this is the actual shade of yarn that I wanted. If you remember, I was a little bit complaining with my first bubble sweater because the yarn was too pink rather than bluish, so here we go. Perfect. It's called perfect, and it's the perfect yarn as well. So, finished with the finished work, finished with the works in progress, this leads us into acquisitions, and there's quite a few acquisitions coming up today. So, the first thing is, of course, this couple of yarns here for the bubble sweater. This is Peer Gynt from Sadness Garn, and I got a jumper quantity, so it's basically 10 balls of this lovely charcoaly grey here, and I only got 2 balls of the purple. I hope this is enough to make the yolk. In my original design, I only use 1 ball of Cascade 220, so I figure out this may be the right amount, and I really hope, because it was quite difficult to find. Anyway, I have a big box there. I kind of don't want to crankle up the paper and show you on camera, but it's a big amount of yarn, also because it's super squishy. Let me give you some specification on the yarn. As I said, this is 100% wool and this is 75-25 wool, but the tension and the meterage is exactly the same. So we are talking about 50 grams by 91 meters, and the suggested gauge is 22 stitches per 10 centimeter or 4 inches, which is exactly what Stephen West in the bubble sweater pattern is calling for. So purchasing this yarn, I was browsing through the website, and when does it happen that I buy Sadness Garn yarn? Never. I really love Sadness Garn, so I jumped to the occasion and I bought another jumper quantity, and I got 13 balls of the color number 2035, which is a lovely, simple mustardy color that will turn into a beautiful sweater, which will be probably or another anchor sweater, or I was thinking about the flax sweater. This because everybody and their dogs knitted it, looks very nice, and with some modification I might be able to get a lovely jumper out of it. And again, I really love this color. This was the original color I wanted this jumper in. So eventually we'll get used to this as well. I am guilty of buying yarn without thinking about a project. So I've seen the yarn, I bought it, and then eventually the project will come through. And this happens over and over again. My stash is growing quite a bit, but is not growing dangerously, because I don't tend to buy a ball here, a ball there, without even thinking. I tend to buy jumper quantities, so I know that eventually I will have a garment out of this yarn, which is a sort of self-justifying the expenditure, but it's really helping my blocking my overstashing yarn. And as well, of course, when do you come about Sadness Garn in Ireland? So, talking about yarn from Norway, I got another jumper quantity because I was on this website, because they were selling beautiful yarns, and because they were kind of cheap on the shipping side. So, look what I got. This is Finul PT2 from Rauma Garn, which is another Scandinavian Norwegian yarn, and this is a DK yarn, DK-ish, because it's kind of lighter in weight than the Peer Gynt yarn. It's a little bit rougher than the Peer Gynt. The thing that drawn me to this yarn is that I've seen so many Norwegian people online, on Ravelry, knitting wonderful color work with this yarn, and I really wanted to get my hands on this. This is 170 meter by 50 gram balls, and the gauge is 26 to 24 stitches per centimeter. And of course I got the Norwegian flag colors. This will definitely turn into a very classic looking Marius sweater. I don't apologize about it because I really love that one, and I always wanted to get the original color Marius sweater. So I got a dark blue, a really true red, and a natural color as well. This is 100% Norwegian wool, wonderful for color work. I think the roughness-ish of the wool is that thing that will make color work really showing and really working, and the stitch definition really show up in the final garment. So I got 1 ball of red, 3 balls of white, and about 10 balls of blue, which will turn into the classic beautiful Marius sweater. Why am I so obsessed with sadness pattern? Well, they are beautiful patterns, they fit me very well, I really love the design, they are kind of retro looking, which is something I'm really embracing. And then, of course, in a couple of years there's going to be the Olympics in my town in Italy, where I'm from, the Winter Olympics, of course. And Marius, the person that came up with the pattern, the person didn't come up with the pattern, but the pattern was dedicated to the person who was a skier and was a sort of a skiing personality, a celebrity back in the 60s in Norway. And if I'm right, he competed in Cortina, which is the city that is going to host the Olympics in a few years. And Cortina is just like a few minutes from where I am from in Italy. So to celebrate the Olympics, I will have a beautiful Marius sweater. I probably would have needed, instead of the blue, a gray for the Italian flag, but you know, I really like the combination, and I think you can wear much better a blue than a green. So the final and probably most important acquisition of this week is this one. These are, I'm not quite sure how to show them, but these are 3 lovely mini skeins of yarn from an Irish dyer, which is called, and you can find her on Instagram, or here I put the link to their Etsy shop. The crafter, the dyer, is called Fine Leaf Fibers. Comes from Cork, which is a town down in the south here of Ireland. And yeah, so backstory of this yarn, and then we get into the yarn. I was looking for some prizes for my 1,000 subscribers giveaway that I announced in my previous videos. And I found her, and I was in love with her Instagram page and with the Etsy shop as well, and I couldn't stop but buying a couple of skeins. So I bought 2 skeins, and I was like, please choose 2 colors random that you have on your stash. It's for a giveaway, so I don't really mind the colors, just make them work well together. And she was so kind to send me another skein for my own personal use that I will or will not include in the giveaway. This will be a surprise. So these are, and I'm reading, 75% superwash merino wool, 25% nylon, 80 meters or 87 yards per 20 grams. So these are 60 grams of yarn. You can probably get a pair of shorties out of this and a beautiful color work for sure, or you can use this as a heel, contrast color, whatever you will think of, or as well indeed as a contrast color for the color work. They are beautifully variegated yarn. The yarn comes from Ireland, is spun in Italy, back to Ireland, dyed by this very talented dyer. And yeah, I'm just really in love with these colors. This is the color Forbidden Marshland, which is a wonderful green with specks of grey, yellow and dark brown. It probably doesn't show well on camera, but I really hope it does. This is called Fire Sports. It's a beautiful orange, very, very, very rich orange with yellows and reds and a little bit of brown as well. I am so tempted to keep this for myself. It's so beautiful. And finally we get an underwater, which is like a petrolish blue with a dark green, dark blue and a little bit of yellow speckles as well. It's not really a blue, it's more of a greenish color, but again, this is so luxurious, it's just so beautiful, and I just want to squish them so much. If I keep these 3 this won't be knitted into anything. I'm sure I will keep them up in my stash just to look at them, squish them, and admire all these beautiful colors. So this was the last piece for the acquisition part, and let's talk about the giveaway. So I'm not gonna get into all the prices, also because I only have this in my hands here, but I decided to gift to one lucky viewer these skeins, as well as a set of stitch markers that have been handmade in the town where I'm from in Italy, and as well a book from Arne and Carlos with a collection of Norwegian pattern, their favorite patterns, which is basically the book where I learned how to knit. So for me it's very important as a book, so I decided to purchase another copy and give this as a giveaway. To enter the giveaway, I was asking to put a comment back in my previous podcast. I haven't managed to go through the comments and pick a winner yet, so the giveaway is still open, and if you are interested in taking part to the giveaway, I will put a link below to my previous video just for my mental health. Please go there and leave a comment to the video. So yeah, if you want to enter my giveaway, please put a comment in my previous video. Again, the link is below in the description. The comment situation or request is of course a way for triggering a little bit the algorithm and helping my video and my channel to have some more visibility. But more than that is to be able to connect with you guys. Every comment that I receive is so important to me, and I try to reply to all the comments. They are getting so many because luckily this channel is growing a little bit from the 1,000 subscribers that again triggered that giveaway. We have now 1,200 subscribers, which is still mind-blowing to me. Anyway, that was it for my usual content of podcasts, acquisitions, and blah blah blah. By the way, the bell just rang. It was the postman with some more yarn coming. I will talk about the yarn later on in my next podcast probably. It's not a big surprise, it's just replenishing my stash basically. Anyway, some new stuff coming up. Last week I had a wonderful experience. I was so lucky, fortunate, humbled, and all the adjectives you may find in the English word, in the English dictionary, that I was asked for an interview by the lovely Irina from FiberChats. We had a wonderful hour chat. More than an interview, was just a chat with friends. So if you don't know Irina, she is a YouTuber, a wonderful knitter, kind of specialized in Fair Isle lace, if I'm right, and sorry Irina if I'm mistaken this, but she knits a wonderful lace, and she embarked herself in this adventure of interviewing on her channel, on her YouTube channel, knitting people, crafters, designers, dyers, and it's just a mine of knowledge, that channel. The interviews that she does really are so interesting and made myself grow so much as a designer and as a knitter, just because you get to know people, and the network connection that she creates with her channel is just amazing. And we kind of became friends over Instagram or Facebook, and then she asked me if I wanted to take part of an interview, and I was like, well, I'm nobody, I am knitting, I'm a beginner, I don't really have much to say. But she was like, oh no, you have quite a bit to say, which was actually true. And well, it was a wonderful experience. The interview will be put up on the FiberChats channel, and I'm going to put the links below, at the end of April. And it will be a premiere video, so basically the video will be put on the channel, and while it's live, myself and Irina will watch the video, and there will be a chat box in which you can ask questions or interact with myself and Irina as well. So I never done that. That is quite anxiety driven, but it's gonna be a really exciting as well. She's interviewed so many talented and famous people that I am once again really humbled about this possibility and being part of such a wonderful network of knitters. And yeah, once again, thank you so much, Irina, if you're watching this channel. And yeah, it's just wonderful. I'm really speechless, but it was a lovely experience. So in terms of other updates, well, I have published a couple of patterns. I have knitted a few projects. I am starting at a bubble sweater, of course, and I have a lot of acquisitions. So there's nothing really to update you about, but I really wanted, on the light of building connections and share knowledge, this is the main meaning of my channel. I wanted to recommend you guys a couple of podcasts or YouTube channels that I really enjoy and love. And I think the connection that I made with these YouTubers on a virtual level, of course, I'm not friends with them or we haven't interacted at all, but I'm watching their videos and I'm learning so much, and so I hope they do as well, learn from other YouTubers and so on and so forth. This creation of community is so important with me. So the first person that I want to mention is Jude Harper from the Stranded Dye Work. Jude Harper has a channel here on YouTube. He's a wonderful indie dyer based in Scotland, and his videos are just amazing. The way he is describing the way he dyes yarn or the projects he's coming up with, the knitting, just the energy is just unbelievable. And I've been following him for a long time, probably since the beginning of his channel, or since the beginning of myself knitting actually. And it's being literally a growing through the channel, growing through the techniques and growing through the yarns that he's dyeing. I had purchased a few of his yarns before. They are so beautiful. I must really check out a shop update of his. He has a wonderful shop, and he updates the shop quite often, so it's as well a way to support an indie dyer, a Scottish dyer, so we're all Celtic people. Well, I'm Italian myself, but I'm adopted Irish, so I can say we're all Celtic people, and it's a wonderful channel and podcast. So Jude Harper, Stranded Dye Works, check it out, it's amazing. The next podcast that I am enjoying very much, this is part of myself looking into other guys knitting, because, and I was saying that to Irina in my interview, us guys, especially if you live in the rural community, or if you grow up in a very traditional family like me, knitting is still considered a woman's type of art. So a man that knits is quite interesting to see. And well, I'm not going to linger in this thing, but you have to go through a lot of coming out situation, or coming out like situation, when you are a man knitter. So I'm really fascinated about seeing other guys knitters. and how other guys come up with knitting designs, or how other guys knit in public, or just the craft that is so much entailed with the feminine world or women's community, especially with the upbringings that I had. It's really helping me to kind of come out as a knitter as well. So the other podcast I want to talk about or suggest to you is the Needles.ie. They are two wonderful American guys knitting. They have a shop as well, a yarn shop, and they are just amazing. They kind of, their videos are kind of live-ish, so they just chat for about an hour and a half between each other, reporting news around knitting, reporting new shops that they find, new indie dyers, new designs, works in progress, acquisition, and you name it. It's just wonderful to see the interaction between the two of them and how they as well interact with the society they are living in, which is really something I really want to apply for myself and take as an example. The way they knit for their family and friends, or the way they make their knitting interacting with their families and friends, is so inspiring. So the needles have the ready. Check them out, they are brilliant. I'm sure if you're watching this channel, for sure before you've come across them. I have been so lucky to be followed by them on YouTube here, and I was like, boom, blowing my mind. I was like, oh my god, they actually saw my channel. Anyway, this is another wonderful podcast that you must watch. And the last one, I have just discovered it. We're talking about, of course, the grocery girls. I just discovered them because everybody were recommending them to me. They're saying, oh, did you see the grocery girls? Did you see how wonderful they are? Or do you see they talk about that project that you mentioned in your channel? Or if you have any questions, just go through their channels and look at them. So yeah, I don't know why I didn't check them before. But I have a cold now. I can't really go out. There is a ginormous storm coming to Ireland. I spent the last 2 days looking and watching their videos. Basically one after the other, after the other, after the other. I have no idea what's going on in the world outside my doors. I only am watching the grocery girls. I told them in a comment that I basically spent my last 2 days looking, watching their videos, and there's no shame on that. They are just amazing. The energy that I put in their videos, it's something that I have rarely seen before. And the way they explain techniques and projects is just so inspiring. It makes you want to custom literally everything that they are working on. And yeah, we definitely need more of this type of podcaster in our world. So the Grocery Girls is another wonderful podcast you need to check. So this wraps up my podcast recommendation once again. Jude Harper from Standard Dye Work, The Needles at the Ready, and The Grocery Girls. It will probably fill you up for month and month if you decide to binge watch the three of them, because they have so many videos in their channels, something unbelievable. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this little podcast. Again, I'm really sorry for my voice. I am falling apart. I need to take a paracetamol now and go directly straight into bed. I feel like my cold is getting worse and worse by the minute I speak, but it's probably just about the speaking. If you enjoyed this video, please consider to subscribe. I always feel really awkward to ask people to subscribe. Others say, oh, it doesn't cost you anything, so why won't you subscribe? But I'm really mindful that I only subscribe to channels that I love and that I watch because I want to see them coming up in my feeds and I want to be notified. So I'm not asking you to subscribe to this channel just randomly, but if you like this video and if you want to be notified about future videos, hit a subscribe button and the bell notification, as they say, and put a comment, a like, whatever. I am always eager to connect with people and learn more about knitting. If you have any recommendation for me, just let me know. And once again, if you want to enter my giveaway, check the links below. There's gonna be a link that says giveaway, will bring you to another video, and you just need to put a comment out there and you will be selected probably next week or the week after for the giveaway. From Ireland, once again, it was a pleasure, and I'll see you very soon. Bye bye.